Real doorbell camera nightmares caught on tape. True crime footage that'll keep you awake. The girl who vanished at the door. It was a quiet night in Harriet Creek Ranch, Texas, November 22, 2019. The streets were dim, the only light coming from porch lamps and the faint glow of Christmas decorations. But at 8:03 p.m., one doorbell camera captured something that would baffle investigators and the internet for years to come. The footage begins with a young girl, maybe 9 or 10 years old, walking quickly toward the front door. She's holding a small flashlight, her hair messy, her clothes wrinkled, and her breathing heavy. She keeps looking over her shoulder, scanning the darkness like someone, or something, is following her. "Help, please!" Her small voice trembles through the microphone. She knocks, waits, then pounds harder. But no one comes. The house she ran to was empty, its owners on vacation for the week. You can see her glancing around, panic rising. Her voice cracks as she begs again. "Please help!" Then, she looks straight into the doorbell camera, her wide, tear-streaked eyes reflecting pure fear, and runs out of frame. When the homeowners returned days later and checked the footage, it was already too late. The girl had disappeared, and there were no signs of her anywhere in the neighborhood. No one recognized her. She wasn't from that area. Police canvassed the neighborhood, searched nearby woods, and checked missing child databases, but nothing matched. That video, now viewed millions of times online, became one of the internet's most chilling mysteries. Theories flood in. When the footage first circulated online, theories spread like wildfire. Some claimed it was a setup by burglars, a trick where criminals send a crying child to the door to lure out the homeowner before ambushing them. But something about the footage didn't fit. The girl's panic felt too raw, too genuine. Others believed she was a kidnapped child, escaping her captor. The most compelling theory was that she could be Serenity Dennard, a 9-year-old girl who had vanished earlier that same year, February 3, 2019, from a children's treatment center in South Dakota. Serenity was known to run away, but she never made it far before. The search for her had been one of the largest in state history, involving helicopters, K-9 units, and hundreds of volunteers. For months, her family prayed for answers. But the trail went cold. When people online compared Serenity's photos to the girl in the footage, the resemblance was haunting: the same dark hair, the same build, even similar pajamas. It seemed possible that she had been taken across states, escaped her abductor, and in her final moments of freedom, sought help from a stranger's door. But Serenity's family said it wasn't her. They were certain. Still, many online refused to believe that, convinced that the girl on camera was Serenity trying to escape her fate. 6 years later. As of today, 6 years have passed since that night. Neither Serenity Dennard nor the unidentified girl has ever been found. No one has come forward, no leads, no arrests, just a few seconds of haunting footage and endless speculation. Some viewers claim they can hear another faint voice in the background of the clip, a deep male whisper just before the girl runs away. Audio engineers have tried isolating it, but the results are inconclusive. Was it her kidnapper? Was someone chasing her? Or was it just wind echoing through an empty Texas cul-de-sac? Whatever the truth, the image of that frightened child remains burned into viewers' minds. A doorbell camera, meant to bring security, instead captured a moment of pure helplessness, a scream for help that no one heard in time. And perhaps, that's what makes it so terrifying. Because if something like that can happen to her, it could happen to anyone. The ex-boyfriend at the door. It was a calm Sunday morning in Sydney, Ohio, July 31, 2022. The air was warm, the streets quiet. 22-year-old Allison Duckrow and her mother had just returned from breakfast, chatting casually as they pulled into their driveway. But as they approached the front door, another car, a faded gray sedan, rolled up behind them. Out stepped a man Allison hadn't seen in almost a year and a half. Her ex-boyfriend, James Rail. They hadn't spoken since the breakup, and Allison had moved on with her life. But James hadn't. A creepy message before the visit. The night before, Allison had received a strange voice message from him. His tone was slow and nervous, like someone trying to sound calm while holding back emotion. "Hi, Ollie, it's James. I just wanted to reach out. It's been a while, and I just wanted to talk to you. Maybe tomorrow. You can call me if you want." The message ended awkwardly. She didn't reply. She never planned to. But that morning, he showed up anyway. From inside the house, the doorbell camera feed came alive, showing James standing on the porch, shifting from foot to foot, staring at the door. He didn't look angry. Just lost. He knocked. Waited. Knocked again. Then, after 3 minutes, he walked off the porch. But instead of leaving, he circled around the house. The camera on the side yard caught him trying the windows, testing each latch. Inside, Allison froze. Her heart pounded as she whispered to her mom to stay quiet. They could hear his footsteps moving across the deck. He came back to the door and began to force it open. The metal hinges creaked as he pushed and slammed. The live feed recorded everything, every thud, every second of rising panic. The knock that turned deadly. Allison's father, Mitchell Duckrow, heard the chaos and ran to the entryway. He could see James through the frosted glass, pounding his fists, yelling something they couldn't make out. Allison screamed. Her mother called 911. But the door wouldn't hold much longer. Mitchell shouted, "Stop! Don't come in here, James!" There was silence for a few seconds, then another violent crash. That was the moment Mitchell fired. The sound echoed through the small house, followed by another, and then nothing. James collapsed on the porch, his body visible through the camera feed that had been recording the entire event. The clock read 11:01 a.m. Allison fell to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Minutes later, the police arrived. The footage was immediately secured, evidence of everything that had unfolded in real time. The trial that divided a town. Days later, the story made national headlines. Some called it a tragic case of obsession. Others labeled it a justified act of defense. At the trial, prosecutors replayed the doorbell camera video in full: the knock, the shouts, the breaking sounds, and the gunfire. The jurors watched silently, some covering their mouths. Then they listened to the voice message James had sent the night before, slow, trembling, and desperate. A haunting foreshadowing of what was to come. When asked if he had known about the messages, Mitchell replied, "No. She never told me. I just heard the door and saw someone breaking in. I did what any father would do." After deliberation, the court ruled the shooting as self-defense under Ohio's Castle Doctrine. Mitchell was acquitted of all charges. The aftermath. But victory in court didn't mean peace at home. Allison stopped sleeping in her room for months. The front porch, once her favorite spot for coffee and music, now felt haunted. Every time the doorbell rang, her chest tightened. She couldn't even look at the footage anymore, the one that showed her past love turning into a threat. Neighbors began installing cameras of their own. For the first time, people realized that those little blinking lights weren't just for security. They were witnesses to human desperation, fear, and sometimes tragedy. And as the clip continued to circulate online, one question echoed across social media. If the camera hadn't been rolling that morning, would the world have believed the truth? The man in the red mask. It was a quiet Saturday night in Carrollton, North Texas, January 18, 2025. The streets were calm, and most families were settling in for bed when a doorbell alert pinged on a homeowner's phone. At first, she thought it was just a delivery mix-up, until she opened the live feed. On her screen stood a tall man dressed entirely in black, motionless under the porch light. In his hands was a small cardboard box. But what froze her blood wasn't the package. It was his face. He was wearing a red goat mask, sharp horns, black eyes, and an expression that looked carved in rage. He tilted his head slowly toward the camera, and waved. The sinister message. For 30 seconds the figure didn't move. Then he stepped closer, his boots thudding on the porch. He leaned in, staring directly into the camera lens as if he could see her watching. He pressed the doorbell once, the chime echoing through the house. Then, without a word, he bent down and placed the box on the doormat. Before walking away, he pulled a small sign from under his coat and leaned it against the package. Written in black marker, the words were, Revelation 20 verses 1 to 15. The homeowner blinked, trying to remember the verse. Later, she would look it up. It spoke of Satan being bound for 1,000 years, the final judgment, and souls cast into the lake of fire. She replayed the clip over and over, her hands shaking. Was it a prank? A cult threat? A stalker? She called the police immediately. But by the time they arrived, the man was long gone. The package was empty. Police investigation. When detectives reviewed the footage, they confirmed that the man had parked his car just outside camera range, deliberately avoiding other homes' doorbells. He knew exactly where to stand and how long to stay, suggesting planning rather than impulse. However, he hadn't technically committed a crime. He hadn't broken in, stolen anything, or directly threatened anyone. So the police could do nothing. The case was filed as suspicious activity, no further action. But online, the video spread like wildfire. Within hours, it had millions of views under titles like Satanic Doorbell Visitor, Texas Homeowner's Worst Nightmare. Internet detectives analyzed every frame. Some claimed the figure was part of a viral ARG, alternate reality game. Others believed it was linked to a local church vandalism spree that had occurred the same week. But nothing connected. The man's identity remained unknown. The aftermath. Days later, the homeowner, Emily Harper, a 34-year-old teacher, spoke to a local news station. Her voice trembled as she said, "I'm scared to leave the house. I'm scared to be in the house. That image, that mask. I see it every time I close my eyes." Neighbors began reporting strange noises at night, footsteps on porches, faint whispers near their windows, and doorbells ringing with no one there. Some even claimed to find copies of the same Bible verse taped to their fences. Yet police surveillance never caught the man again. Unanswered questions. Who was the man in the red mask? Why choose Emily's home? And what message was he really trying to send? Months later, theories continued to pour in. A few thought it was a warning, not a threat. The verse, they said, symbolized the judgment of evil. Perhaps the masked figure saw himself as some kind of prophet. But for others it was something darker, a deliberate psychological attack meant to instill fear and confusion. And that's exactly what it did. Even today, the footage circulates across Reddit and TikTok, often mislabeled as a ritual sighting or paranormal encounter. But for Emily Harper, it was no story. It was a moment that shattered her sense of safety forever, a reminder that sometimes, evil doesn't break your door down. It simply rings the bell, and leaves a message.